Well, this afternoon, ranking member for Parliament's Works in the Housing Committee is taking on the Finance Minister for refusing to release funds to fix drainage systems to end Accra's perennial flooding situation. Well, we have details as he laments Parliament is helpless due to the attitude of the Finance Minister in not turning up in the House to respond to questions. Ranking member on Parliament's Works and Housing Committee says the blame for the devastating effects of the recent flooding in Accra should be laid squarely at the doorstep of the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. Joy News intercepted a number of documents this week detailing many requests from the Works and Housing Ministry for funds to undertake some projects to make the city resistant to flooding. All the letters, as we're understanding and getting, and the requests were not responded to, and flooding continuously wreaks havoc across the capital. Now, according to the ranking member on the Works and Housing Committee, Vincent Opong-Esamwa, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta simply does not prioritize protecting lives and properties, but has funds for a national cathedral project.
These requests, the requests that were made, releases were not made during that time. So all the situation we are having in Accra is as a result of these constraints that have been created, not by the minister for that ministry, but the minister for finance. Let me tell you, the biggest problem of MPP as a government is the finance minister. He prioritizes where he should release money and where he should not be releasing money to. And if the situation that we find ourselves in Accra this year especially is anything to go by, then I should tell you this government has failed, and let me say the finance minister has failed Ghanaians, because he decided not to prioritize the release of funds for, especially to clear the drains and other works that were supposed to be taking place.
What if the argument of the finance ministry is simply that there are simply not enough funds? They're trying to mobilize, and as and when they get money, the Works and Housing Minister will get his share.
My brother, you know, a lot of things are happening in this government. If you interact with some of the ministers, I call the finance minister as the prime minister. The president is just a figurehead. He decides where money should go, and if you are not in the good books of the finance minister, definitely you are not going to get the money. Because talk about a government that is so responsible and would like to work on the welfare or the needs of its citizens, and you don't prioritize issues of flooding, because it has been a perennial issue. So whilst we are getting to the major rains, all that we need to do is to fix the issue before it sets in. Yes. And the destruction that rains this year has caused individual properties, you can't just put volume on it. It's so much. So any responsible government will prioritize this area than to be thinking about releasing almost over 200 million to the construction of the National Cathedral.
Also, we're asking what exactly will the committee do to get the finance minister to release funds to the Works and Housing Ministry to undertake the outlined project. Vincent Opong-Esamwa says the committee is helpless as several invitations to the minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, to appear before the House have gone or falling on deaf ears.
Fortunately, even the Parliament is helpless. I've filed a question for almost 1 year for the minister to come and answer in Parliament. They've admitted the questions for several times. You can't even explain.
The finance minister.
The finance minister will not even appear. He will only come there when he needs something. Even when a loan, he's even looking for loan, seeking approval, he himself will not even come. I'm telling you. And it looks as if it has become a thank God, and no one is able to even say anything about the finance minister. So it will be very surprising to see any solution to any of these major problems that we are talking about. Unless you are in the good books of the finance minister, nothing is going to happen. I'm only praying that they will prioritize the issues that are so much, you know, you talk about National Cathedral. Who cares about National Cathedral? We are talking about flooding. We are talking about our roads. You know, the moment there's flooding, even the roads project that we have in the capital that we have invested so much money,
Destroyed.
it's destroyed. You look at what happened at Dansoman and other places. Even though we are putting a lot of resources to construct these roads, but because of flooding, we lose almost most of this investment. So prioritization of that ministry by allocating resources so that we can open up drains so that the volume of water that is coming from uphill towards the sea, it will be able to contain it so that at least we can protect lives and property.
Well, so let's cross over now to Parliament. Obviously, Kwaku Asante has some updates for us as to whether or not the minority and some members of Parliament as well, if they've been successful in getting the Finance Minister, at least a response from his outfit. Kwaku, what can you tell us about the situation as we see?
So, Blessed, one of the biggest issues this week in Parliament has been the refusal or inability of Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta to appear before the House and answer questions. He's one of the ministers that has a lot of questions to answer from members from both sides of the House. This week, he was programmed to answer some of the questions. He wasn't able to. We're told last week the situation was similar. And so when the Deputy Majority Leader read the business statement for the week, he programmed him again for next week. We are expecting that he will be there to answer questions. But just last, you heard Honorable Vincent Samoa, the ranking member on the Works and Housing Committee, say their side have tried their best to try and get the Finance Minister to come to the floor. Minority Chief Whip Muntaka Mubarak actually described the Finance Minister as having been made a tin god who does not respect Parliament. And so it became a back and forth of a sort between both sides of the House, where the majority is taken by the Finance Minister and explaining that he has some key issues that he has to deal with at the ministry. But, I mean, zeroing it down to the specific issue of flooding, we know we are in June and July, there will be a lot of rainfall in Accra that could wreak more havoc on the city. The minority say they are going to continue to push to ensure that the budget that was approved by Parliament and the amounts that were earmarked for the Works and Housing Ministry actually gets to the ministry to do that. But the concerns are that the rains have already started, and when you do some of these works during the rainy season, you end up losing money because the rains will destroy some of these constructions works that you are doing. And so it's become sort of a tussle between both sides on how best they can be able to exact some form of accountability from Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. We are expecting next week when he comes to the floor, as he has been programmed, some of these answers will be given, Blessed.
Well, Kwaku, so how about other options that the MPs may be trying to explore now? What exactly are they attempting if the Finance Minister fails to show up?
So there are talks on the minority front bench about pressure from the bank benches to sort of file for a motion of censure on the Finance Minister. There's not so much of a conclusion or a closure on that. The minority have not decided exactly what strategy they are going to use. But if you look at Parliament this week, there were a number of bills that were to be laid by the Finance Minister himself. He was not there. His Deputy Minister was there. There were a few instances where other ministers had to do that for him. And so the minority now have to decide what a strategy will be for them going forward in terms of how they can do this. There's a talk of censure, but can they succeed given the position that the majority have taken when it comes to the Finance Minister? Already, there is a vote of censure motion against Health Minister that have not even been discussed deliberately on the floor. And so if you're going to move another set motion against the Finance Minister, or do you have a chance to succeed? That is something Haruna Idrisu, Muntaka Mubarak, and the minority front bench have to decide what they have to do. But another option that is available to them is to get the Finance Minister to appear before the committee, even if it's in camera, to answer some of those questions. But it's not something that they've also had conclusion on because, according to the majority leadership, the Finance Minister has to deal with a few things. And in terms of programming him to appear before some of these committees, some of these decisions would have to be delayed for some time. And so today when Parliament closed, they were not able to have a sort of conclusion in terms of how to progress on some of these issues. But a number of other issues came up before you leave us having to do with the roads minister having been dragged before the Parliament's Assurance Committee because in 2021 he made a promise about fixing a road in the Solar Tona Kalba constituency. The road has still not been fixed, and the MP is up in arms against the minister. He has dragged him before the Parliament's Assurance Committee to force his hands to work on that road. And so those are some of the issues that Parliament will be looking at when they come back next week, because tomorrow is Friday. Ordinarily, they should be sitting, but they are not sitting because they are all joining the Lands and Natural Resources Minister to plant trees. And so when they resume next week, these are the issues that will be at the top of the agenda.
Well, Kwaku Asante, our parliamentary correspondent, giving us the latest from the House in terms of how the MPs are having some challenges with the finance minister. We'll definitely get some more updates on that, plus get some reactions. Obviously, we'll be bringing you some more updates. But it's